Good evening, welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. A video that shows a confrontation between Calgary child services workers and a chalk artist has gone viral on social media. Now, one of those workers is on leave because of that incident. Tamara Pimentel has the story.
I own everything, and if you don't like children's services taking your kids, maybe you should treat them right.
This video of a child and family services worker was taken outside of a CFS building in Calgary earlier this week. It was recorded by Cheryl Wozniak, an advocate for child welfare, who is about to start making chalk paint art outside of the building. The worker can be heard threatening to punch Wozniak in the head.
I was angry, and I am still angry. And I have every reason to be angry with many other millions of people.
She's part of the group Preserving Families, the fight against Alberta CFS. Wozniak says she has chalk painted in other CFS locations and hasn't had problems before.
It's legal. It washes away. So I've just been spreading awareness all the way from Manitoba, across Saskatchewan to Alberta. And I've been writing Preserving Families, the fight against child and family services. Or I will write Audit CFS.
Usually, she says, the workers just peek out their window, but this time there was a confrontation.
And they just come flying out of their car and asked me what I was doing there. And they just the one lady went ballistic.
You have a client or somebody out front.
In the video, another CFS worker calls police about a client, but Wozniak says she isn't a client and is only advocating for other family members currently dealing with the system.
It needs to change.
Lynn Marshall-Say with Preserving Families says the group supports parents and children who are under CFS care and helps them know their rights. Hundreds of families are in the group.
When she's saying, if you treated your kids better, they wouldn't be here. If that's the attitude that's going on in these Alberta Child and Family Services offices, it's no wonder that so many of our parents are losing their fight.
In an email to APTN, Alberta CFS said the staff member involved in the incident is now on administrative leave and an investigation is underway. Wozniak says big changes are needed in the child and welfare system.
The system needs to be broken. It needs to be rebuilt. It needs to be renamed.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Calgary.
In Saskatchewan, the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations is calling on the Pope to make an official apology to residential school survivors. The FSIN says Pope Francis should come to one of the residential school sites and formally apologize to survivors. Vice Chief David Pratt says that survivors are being triggered again by the discovery of the Kamloops graves and believes that more will be uncovered across Canada. The FSIN is also calling on the church to release all of its records relating to children at residential schools.
To call for the Pope to come and visit Saskatchewan and to visit one of our residential school sites and to apologize in person for the trauma and the harm that the Catholic Church caused to our people that we're still feeling till today. We're also calling upon the Catholic Church to preserve and release the records.
With renewed calls today for the Catholic Church to apologize, at least one archbishop is actually doing just that. Here's the final part of an exclusive interview with Vancouver Archbishop Michael Miller.
I'd love to give you an opportunity to talk directly to those survivors now. If you had a chance to sit in front of them now, what would you say to them?
I think the first thing I would say is that I'm not just sorry, I'm very sorry, but I want to apologize to you because of the harm that, in the name of the church that I love and serve, that there were people in the service of the church, of my church or our church, the Catholic Church in this case, that they betrayed a trust. And because I have a place of responsibility in the church, I want to tell you how sorry I am that this should not have happened to you, that I want to listen to your story, I want to hear you, I want to accompany you, and in ways that you tell me, I want to be able to build and repair a relationship with you.
Thank you for that. Would you like to put a call to action to every other archbishop across Canada to do the same as you are?
I'm a little reluctant, but I would hope that, and I know many certainly of my brother bishops feel the same way. Right now, the spotlight is on Vancouver, and so because of this is where Kamloops was in the Archdiocese of Vancouver from 1890 to 1946. Time of the residential school. So I encourage my brother bishops, but I know them and they're good men. They want to do the right thing, and just like you, Tina, we need people to help us along the journey. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and to speak actually more directly even to survivors and to those that sort of I'm looking at behind you. You're the face for many because you bring their stories. So thank you.
Since news broke of the graves on May 27th, there's been an increase in calls to the residential school crisis line, according to the federal government. Between May 27th and May 31st, calls jumped 265%, from 123 calls to 449 calls, and reached a peak of 481 calls on June 1st. Well, we want to hear what you think about Archbishop Miller making that apology that the Vatican won't. You can share your thoughts with us. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and now TikTok. Follow APTN News and join the conversation and see our latest stories. Well, we learned this week of the statue head of Egerton Ryerson made its way to Mohawk territory and 1492 Landback Lane. APTN visited the camp and talked with spokesperson Skylar Williams about what it means and how it got there. Our reporter Elena McDougall has that story.
We're not keeping statues up of Hitler and Stalin, like these are monuments that came crashing down, and they came down for a reason, and that was because of the amount of trauma that was inflicted on a community.
That trauma has been revisited for years at Ryerson University, where a monument dedicated to an architect of the residential school system recently came down. Now the statue head of Egerton Ryerson has a new home, 1492 Landback Lane.
Like when we're talking about dismantling those monuments to genocide, this is what we're talking about. And when these institutions like Ryerson University refuse to take down or remove these dedications to the killing of the children of our communities, this isn't some far off thing that we remember from 1,000 years ago. This is something that for most of us happened in our lifetimes.
Skylar Williams, a member of Six Nations of the Grand River, is an intergenerational survivor himself.
Parents like mine that managed to hide in the bush every time the church bus came rolling around town, that ran, and whose mothers would tell them whenever you see that bus coming down, whenever you see that truck coming, you make sure you get in a bush and go in as far as you can.
Williams makes a distinction between what Canada claims is a loss of culture and loss of lives.
I'm sorry, was there drums and rattles in the hole?
Yeah.
No, there wasn't.
No.
That wasn't cultural genocide. If there was drums and rattles in that hole, I'd agree with you and say, yeah, that's cultural genocide. Yeah. Those were people in that hole. Mm-hmm. Kids with families, kids with parents that missed them.
As for how the statue head found its way to 1492 Landback Lane,
how did the piece of the statue end up here?
No idea.
Elena McDougall, APTN National News, Caledonia.
We need to take a break, but when we come back, dealing with an overdose outbreak in Alberta. Stay with us. After a year of record overdose deaths in Alberta, the provincial government has started a trial program in Edmonton to help combat the rising numbers. APTN's Chris Stewart has that story.
71-year-old Clifford Mitchell and two of his friends died on May 21st at the Kenestanall Park in Edmonton. All three died of cardiac arrest, and overdoses are suspected. Clifford Mitchell was homeless for 15 to 20 years and recently became mostly blind. His daughter, Naomi Johnson, says that while her father was an alcoholic, he was not into hard drugs. It's possible any marijuana he smoked was laced with a lethal dose of fentanyl, but she won't know for sure for up to 9 months. She says homeless people like her father are treated as second-class citizens by the government and society.
It's very obvious to me that some people's lives matter and some people's lives don't matter. And, you know, my father and those men were once just like everybody else. My dad has 5 kids. He had a partner. He had a job. He had a home. And now everyone in Edmonton thinks he was a drug addict.
Of course. On Wednesday, the Alberta government announced $2.1 million for 35 new medical detox beds over 3 years. And a $1.5 million one-year pilot project in Edmonton, working with the George Spady Society to provide nasal naloxone treatment to people overdosing. It can reverse the effects of drugs if taken in time. Most treatments require a needle. In March, 123 people died in the province from overdoses, a 50% increase from last year.
Tragically, we have been reminded of the vital importance and urgency of this work with the recent apparent overdose deaths here in Edmonton. 3 overdose deaths in one afternoon. 1,144 deaths for Albertans in 2020.
Johnson says the announcement is a start, but much more needs to be done.
There has to be drug testing. There should be expanded consumption sites that are supervised. I feel like drug testing is huge. People can bring in whatever drugs that they are going to consume, and they'll find out if it contains fentanyl or not, and is deadly.
She hopes society will see homeless and people with mental health issues as real people, not just statistics.
People don't look at people on the street or with mental health disorders or substance use disorders as people anymore. And they're still loved and cared for.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
The Council of Yukon First Nations is launching a community impact statement pilot project. Similar to a victim impact statement, the project is going to be used as a tool in the sentencing procedures of a person who has pled guilty to a crime. The council will work with Yukon First Nation members to provide statements identifying the impacts of a crime in a community and help them present it in court. The goal of the project is for First Nations voices to be heard when it comes to the impacts of crime and to promote healing in communities.
Many times, crimes and the criminal justice process really creates division in the community. So the community impact statements is one tool for the community to ensure their voice is represented in the sentencing process.
The pilot was made possible through funding provided by Yukon Government's Crime Prevention and Victim Services Trust Fund. Well, still in the Yukon, it has reported low COVID numbers for months, but now the territory is grappling with a new surge of cases. There's currently 13 active cases. 5 of them are confirmed as the P1 variant. 12 of the 13 were in people who were not fully vaccinated. 3 people have been hospitalized, and 2 of them have been medevaced outside the territory. But Yukon's Chief Medical Officer of Health says that the territory's high vaccination numbers will act as a safety net.
Challenging as things may seem at the moment, I can tell you, things would be much worse if we didn't have the numbers of people vaccinated that we have already.
Well, it's time for another break, but when we come back, we're going to talk to an Indigenous astronomer about that incredible eclipse that we had earlier this week and stories about the phenomenon as handed down through our histories. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. William sent us this beauty of the setting sun over the Sequadamu River of the Alexis Nakota Sioux Nation. That's in Whitecourt, Alberta. We enjoyed all of the pictures that you send us while you're out enjoying your weekend. Take a pic and send it to us. Email it to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Let's take a look now at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting off on the East Coast, we got 22 and sunshine for Charlottetown. St. John's 17 and sunny. Kuujjuaq, mix of sun and clouds, 10 degrees. Inukjuak, 7 and mostly sunny. Sept-Îles, 17 degrees expected, 26 and sunshine for Montreal. Ottawa, 27 and sunny. Sault Ste. Marie, cloud, chance of showers, 21 degrees expected. 24 and cloudy for Sioux Lookout. Thunder Bay, 18 and rain. Puckatawagan, 12 with a chance of showers, 19 in Norway House. Sunshine for Winnipeg, 26, same with Brandon. Sun continues in southern Saskatchewan, 22 for North Battleford and Saskatoon, and Swift Current. Rain for Buffalo Narrows expected, 19 degrees, same with L'Orange. Showers and 23 for Fort McMurray, 22 mostly sunny in Grand Prairie. 22 and sunny for Edmonton, 23 and sunshine for Medicine Hat. Penticton, 23 and sunny as well. Victoria, sunshine and 20. 14 and showers for Prince Rupert, 20 and showers for Prince George. Watson Lake, 16 and showers. Rock River, 17 and rain. Fort Simpson, showers expected there, 19 degrees. Wauhee got some sunshine and 15. Tuktoyaktuk, 10 degrees and mostly sunny, same with Sax Harbor. Chesterfield and Whale Cove, both 10 degrees expected and sunshine. 4 and sunny for Joe Haven. Arctic Bay, sunshine and 6. Clyde River, mix of sun and cloud, and 3 degrees. The Ring of Fire solar eclipse blazed across Turtle Island yesterday, and of course eclipses have special meaning to many of us in our cultures. Well, joining us now is Quebec's first Indigenous woman astronomer. She works at the Canada-France-Hawaii Telescope in Hawaii. Laurie Roseau-Neptune is a member of the Mashwoyash First Nation. First of all, super jealous that you're joining us from Hawaii. That's one of my favorite places in the world that I've been to so far. Indigenous cultures have their own stories about eclipses. What are some of your favorites?
Yes, one of my favorite stories is from the Tales of Sakapesh. There's one story from Sakapesh who is the man on the moon, or the Inu on the moon for my community, and he is catching the sun with a snare. So when we have an annular eclipse, the snare actually represent that ring of fire that remains around the moon during the eclipse. And then in that same story, and when Sakapesh catches the sun, everything turns dark. And now all the animals from the forest comes, and you can sometimes see the constellation during eclipses. So those constellations represent the spirits of the animals that comes to help Sakapesh.
Well, with that, I can see why you would be interested in getting into astronomy as a grown-up. How did ancient people, ancient Indigenous people, obviously, understand eclipses? Did they know what was causing them? Was there any kind of, old science behind it?
Yes, there is, because during the eclipse, they knew it was the moon passing in front of the sun. Sakapesh is that representation of the moon. So in that story, all the details are there that explains everything that is actually happening in front of you during the eclipse. So that's a great record and detail of these events from the past. And they were amazed by it. They were not afraid. They were just, they wanted to remember them and put them in their stories.
How important is it to have, all those traditional knowledge, those traditional stories incorporated into astronomy today?
I think it is super important. Some phenomenon that can last tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, are still encapsulated in those stories. And we cannot observe them today, but we know they happened because they're still there in the stories. And I'm thinking about ice ages, like glacier ages, when the polar caps were basically covering Canada, and we were literally in snow, and there were woolly mammoth running around. So those stories are a reminder of those long-lasting climate change that are related to actual celestial movement.
Well, we are glad you could take time out to join us today to talk about that. Big, huge thing, the eclipse. We had a video that we shared online, hugely popular. So it's nice to have some background knowledge from you to go with that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
My pleasure. You're so lucky to have been able to see it. I couldn't see it from Hawaii, unfortunately.
Oh, well, but you're still in Hawaii. You still win.
Yes.
Right?
There you go. Yeah.
Math and sciences can be pretty intimidating subjects for a lot of students, and that's why a pseudo-chemist from Saskatchewan started up her own business to make those subjects interesting and fun while giving them an Indigenous perspective. APTN's Priscilla Wolf has that story.
STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics.
This is Dawn Pratt from the Mascowpatong First Nation. She completed her master's in chemistry at the University of Saskatchewan and is using her knowledge to inspire Indigenous youth to pursue science, technology, engineering, and mathematics as a career like she did.
We need more STEM professionals that are Indigenous. Not just like we have lots of lawyers, we have lots of teachers. You're starting to see like doctors, but we need more. We need more doctors. We need more pharmacists.
She thinks the concept that Indigenous people are bad at mathematics and science is just plain wrong.
I think it is a stereotype because I think it's a matter of the way our education system is delivered, especially in math and science. So it's a struggle between we have people who teach that they themselves don't even like math and science, right?
Pratt says one thing that really stands out to her is that Indigenous people have been putting science to use for hundreds, if not thousands, of years.
Like the science of tanning hides. I always think that's so interesting because it has to do with the chemistry of the hide, as well as the chemistry of they use the fat of the brain of the fatty brain of the buffalo. That chemistry involved in tanning the hide it's really, well, I think it's really interesting.
Pratt adds, many of our traditional ways incorporate science, and our ancestors taught that to the settlers when they arrived in North America.
We had to teach them how to survive, especially in our harsh winters, and we taught them how to survive. We taught them what foods they needed to eat. Like, that's all biology and chemistry.
Pratt's consulting business is still in the beginning stage, and because of the pandemic, she hasn't been able to go into the classrooms, but she has been helping indigenize STEM for some of her clients that include institutions and Indigenous organizations who work with youth to teach them STEM. Priscilla Wolf, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Thanks for that, Priscilla. That was a great story. Well, for nearly a century, the Bay's department store has loomed very large in downtown Winnipeg. In December last year, the store was shut down and the windows were boarded up. This week, though, many of those boards were replaced with Indigenous art. The featured art includes replications from Innu and Anishinaabe artist Peter Thomas and Inuit artist Glenn Gear. Both artists have pieces featured in the new Inuit gallery, Kalmayuk. The plan is to showcase additional work from First Nations and Métis artists in the historic building. Well, that is your news to wrap up the work week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night. I'll see you back here tomorrow with your weekend news.